Alright, this is just a video I'm going to throw together. I have this 4 3/4 foot long Lego model of a World War II era German Type 7C U-boat. I just thought I'd put it up here so you guys could have a look at it. I'm going to VIIC in a few days, and this thing's just going to sit around and collect dust, so you know, no one's going to see it in my room. Thought people might enjoy this on the internet. I know the video is really not going to do much justice to the actual size of it. Like, you actually can't like enjoy the whole thing at once. Yeah, I really have to step back. But I've got about 1,500 bricks in it. I just started putting it together about 2 years ago. I probably finished it about 6 months later. You know, it just threw it together a little bit at a time. Started keel up. Didn't really have a plan this time. Just knew I was going to try for a Type 7C. I tried a Type 9 last time because it doesn't have as many curves in the hull. It's actually kind of slab-sided, and the conning tower could be smaller. I didn't have to put as much detail into it. As you can tell, the hardest part of building a U-boat is what's called a winter garden, which is right here. If you look at a real U-boat, this is actually a curved metal railing, but since I don't have any pieces like that, I decided to use the what Lego decides to call the gear stick pieces or whatever, or antennas or whatever you want to call them. And I used thread on only one level. I didn't do both levels because that was going to drive me insane. I made a makeshift winter garden out of it. I just, I worked my way from the bow to stern. The bow is a lot of people, when they try and build these things, they kind of go for like a you know, conventional approach, and what you get is either a really fat bow or a really skinny bow. And I tried for an offsetting technique, where, as you can see right here, the bow actually comes out to one stud, and I used the where is that piece? Oop, here it is. I used this piece. I don't know if you can see that. You know what kind of piece this is. And I used the bricks with the holes in them that interlock to offset the entire bow assembly, and then I inlaid more of them using that. I just basically offset all the bricks to make a more gradual slope, and I got less of a slab-sided hull. And I tried to make like a slope here where it went diagonally across this jagged section to try and make some kind of torpedo tube cover looking kind of thing. I didn't do it as nicely as some other guys. If you go to mock pages, some of the U-boats there are really well done. I can't remember any of the guys' names off the top of my head, but there's a guy who's doing a Type 7C about 50% longer than mine with a full interior minifigure scale. It's beautiful. So make me feel kind of bad about mine. But anyway, yeah, so I tried to do my own camouflage on it. Some U-boats had camouflage during World War II. It wasn't a big thing. It was more like a, almost kind of like a, you know, trial and progress kind of thing. Just, you know, throw it on. Doesn't really do much. But I think it would look kind of cool on a, you know, a Lego model, just to show that I could put it in there. It actually made building it a lot harder because you have to change colors. Instead of using a nice long beam piece right here, you have to break it and, you know, find the colors for it. The diving planes, you can't really see it here. Right here is a piece of cord I use as a control. Not as a control, wow. It's not a control cable, it's a guard cable for going through like anti-submarine nets to prevent snagging. It's just a cable that runs from the back of this, and I just fuse it into the hull right there. I tried to do the ballast tank intake vents right here, and I couldn't really get many rows of them as I kind of ran out of space, but I tried to, you know, simulate that they're there. I left off the net cutter. Almost every U-boat out there has a net cutter. A lot of pictures of U-boats during the war, once they got into the middle of the war, they realized that there weren't a lot of anti-submarine nets being used, and it wasn't really practical to have that on there, so a lot of them were eliminated. So I'm trying to go for a more of a wartime U-boat. I don't have any specific one in mind to try and replicate, but that's a little, yeah. Alright, so anyway, and then as you can see, I've tried to do the rigging. I've run a cable from here, and it goes all the way up to the conning tower, and I did all the rigging around it, and I copied it as exactly as I could. There we go. So yeah, some of the bricks are loosened up a little bit. As you can see right around here, I tried to do the ballast tank vent that goes right along the top of the actual ballast tank itself, which you see in a lot of Type 7Cs, and instead of like Type 9Bs, which have a long bank of like intake vents up here and stuff, they actually just simplified it into a one long ballast tank vent right here. Towards the center, like a midships here, you have a bunch of smaller vents, and I used the hinge pieces and I inlaid them into the hull, and I made a gap behind them. The only problem with this technique is that I had to use a different kind of piece right there, and you can kind of see when you look at it head on, it's in there. But if you look at it from an angle, they all look black, and they you know, they do have some depth to them. I couldn't really do much for the railing above it. A lot of Type 9s actually have a railing that's like this, that's really simple, that's just welded onto the hull exactly like this. I've never seen one on a Type 7, but because I used almost all my black gear shift pieces up here and I only have 2 or 3 gray ones, I had to resort to this because I didn't have anything else to make cable out of. You know how the Type 7Cs had like 2 layers of cable going from an A-frame to the low rail around the deck gun. This right here is my 105mm deck gun. As you can see, I put the gunner seats on there, gun sight, breech lever, gunner seats, mount, and as a little detail around the barrel, I have a, you can't really see it, it's not focusing too well. As you can see right here, I've wrapped the barrel with a spiral of thread because the barrel cap was retained. Like when the submarine would dive, they didn't want water going up the barrel and getting into the breech, making the gun misfire or hang fire when they surfaced. So there's a clamp that goes to a cover that would go over the muzzle, and you can see it really nicely in U-571, the movie. Right after they fired the deck gun at that German destroyer, they leave it hanging. They didn't bother to reattach it, but they spiral a cable along the barrel. I wanted to add that detail. And the gun, it's not made to traverse, but I mean, I can make it traverse if I need to. It doesn't elevate. I did put a little bit of elevation to it when I built it. I don't know, it's really just for looks. I've also added, I tried to do the entire deck like this, which really would have made for a nice model. I even tried to inlay the camouflage into it, but as you can tell, I ran out of bricks really fast. I don't have a lot of these grading pieces. So I just put them around the conning tower where it would count. And if I ever come across more of them, I would love to finish off the deck with these. This would probably make my day if I could do that. Alright, so over here we've got, I built a snorkel into it. Did a little bit of research and figured out the snorkel on at least some of the U-boats was on the starboard side. I didn't have a long gray pipe, so I had to use a black Technic piece and finished it off with a improvised end piece to try and make it look like the intake. Doesn't look a lot like the real thing, but I did my best to simulate one being there. And you can see it also folds back down to a recess in the deck that I built there. The conning tower itself, as you can see, I've inlaid the top of the conning tower with what I tried to make it look like wood paneling. I just used more of those grading pieces in brown. I have the radio direction finder right here. I have the compass right there, and periscope is right there. If you look into it, I used that, if you ever bought that AT-AT kit, it comes with a really, it comes with a, like a flat round plate piece that has a decal of a hatch cover on it, so I used that, kind of cheated a bit. And then here I tried to actually make my own hatch. I think that came out really nice. Those are the only 2 gray pieces I own, so I couldn't make another hatch anywhere else, but I really like that one. Also forgot to mention, this is the hydrophone protrusion. I don't know what you'd call it. It's you know, if you ever watch an old submarine movie, you know, the guy with the headphones listening to the depth charges, stuff like that. That's what that goes to. Yeah, so anyway, I added navigation lights. As you can see, port lights are red, starboard lights are green, and I set them into the hull. What else? Just, yeah, like I said, I tried to make a winter garden to go around the outside, but that was a pain. I tried to make the flak gun. I couldn't put too much detail into it because of the scale. It's definitely not minifigure scale. It's just kind of like whatever scale looks good to me. Because minifigures are not scaled to like a human. They're like way too wide. If you were to do the math for them being 6 feet tall, they're way too wide. And if you ever try and build in minifigure scale, it usually comes out pretty bad. But that's my simulated 20mm anti-aircraft cannon. And then that's pretty much it for, like, you know, the deck. And then back here I've got, you know, not mats, what are they, like brackets for the radio wires. And then I have the 3 exhaust ports down here for the diesel engines. And then I have my propeller. Yeah, they're bright yellow. I really wish I had some kind of bronze paint to go over them, to be honest. But they're there to simulate propeller. And back here I have my rudders. The rudders actually turn. They're not linked together, so I have to turn them individually if I'm going to pose them. But rudder turns. I don't have a rear torpedo tube simulated at all, I believe. It's just kind of like there. I just kind of like made it slope in the hull. It's not that kind of mock. I don't know if you can see it. I'm just kind of sticking the camera in there, see if you can get an idea. I tried to do my best to simulate the Type 7C propeller assembly. But that's pretty much it. I just, you know, want to make sure you guys got a good look at that. You know, feel free to comment, say I have no life, whatever you want. I don't care. I'm happy. I built it. You didn't, so feel free to insult away. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys.